Welcome to Health and Wellness with Coach A.T. Moore. Let's go ahead and jump into part 2 of our conversation with Kyle King. I was watching an interview you did, and you said boldly, "I'm a great father." What makes you a great father? I mean, I think if you're watching this interview, if you've made it this far, you can kind of give your own examples. But I want to know what else do you think makes you a good father besides what you've already stated so far?
I heard a quote once, and it says, "I judge a tree based upon the fruit that it bears." So my son is a straight A student. My son is very intuitive and creative. He has brand deals with different companies based upon what he finds interest in. He understands the importance of integrity. He lives by, I say, Carter, what's my 4 words? Attitude, gratitude, respect, and truth. He has to say that every single day before he goes to school. He leads our affirmations every single morning. He has never had a disciplinary issue at school. And he's brilliant, and he's getting ready to launch a children's book in the new year that he created. So wow. I don't, it's not necessarily about the monetary things or the things that are tangible. I believe that it's the impact and the experience that he creates when he's around other people.
Yeah.
So what makes me a great father is my ability to be present, my ability to show up for him, my ability to understand who he is deeper than the surface.
Yeah.
Not just his favorite color and his birthday, what makes him tick, and how to calm him down in these moments to get him to communicate what he truly feels in these moments to navigate those conversations.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yeah. So listen, for those of you that are watching, and now that he is talking about his relationship with his son and how his son is progressing through life, and you're not there with your relationship with your kid, I don't want you to lean back. I want you to lean in, because there's something that you can start doing right now in order to make a better connection with your son or with your child. And as you're listening to him talk, this just did not happen. This is intentionality, I hear, because a lot of the things that Carter, as I'm hearing, that he is involved in, that he loves, are things that he has seen his dad model.
Of course. Yes. And I think me and his mother has done an amazing job. I think he definitely gets the creative side from her. I'm not the creative.
Yeah.
But I definitely think we've worked very well together in creating a co-parenting relationship that supports him.
Yeah.
We've provided him not just financial covering, but spiritual covering, emotional, mental covering, and being able to provide him with the things that he needs that he doesn't even know that he needs in the moment, while still being able to set those boundaries, but teach him, who he is, so that he can go off and understand these things.
I saw you mention that your mission currently is to help 100,000 fathers.
Yes.
What are you trying to help them do?
I want men that are currently that have children, that are dads, in my opinion. I see one of the questions that you sent me is, what is the difference between the dad and the father? I believe everybody is a dad, if you have a child, but I believe the intentionality, you being inclusive, you being present in your child's life, you being able to support them through tragedies, through trials, and through even successes, that's what makes you either a father or a mother, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I want to help 100,000 men cultivate loving, intentional, and intuitive relationships with their children, so that they can go off and create globally competitive leaders. That's what I want, and I desire that. And because if we as men can come together and raise the bar and raise the standard in which we live in our households, and impart in our children what we may have or what we may not have, I really believe that our world will be different. We can go off and teach students the importance of integrity and honesty and respect and authenticity and vulnerability, or emotional intelligence, or regulating your emotions, conflict resolution. I think we struggle as adults teaching these things because we struggle in doing these things as adults. So as we teach our kids to be better, it forces us and holds us accountable to do those things ourselves.
Absolutely. And for those that, there's no there are parenting books that you can read, but you got to have like skin in the game really before you can start to learn and just unlearn some things. And so you said that you had an amazing father. You had amazing parents, but as you are learning your personal role as a father, not just being a son, what are some lessons that you've learned so far as being a parent, or some things that you had to unlearn, you know?
Yes, I love that. So one of the quotes that I said recently is that even if you believe that your picture is distorted, to somebody it's a masterpiece. And what I mean by that, if you walked into an art gallery, what may just be just paint thrown on a canvas, to me may just look like, why is that worth 10,000? But to somebody else, they're willing to pay 50,000 for it. And what that means, in the lesson that I've had to unlearn, is keeping up with the Joneses and keeping all of your bad laundry in house, in a sense. And that's not what I teach here in my household. I don't want us to have this false image that we have all the answers, or that we have, no problems or challenges. I want us to wash those challenges so that we can wear that laundry and then go off in the house and teach someone else how we did it. So I think that was one of the biggest things growing up, having to keep this image up, and then that transpired into always feeling like I had to have all the answers or have it all together. So, as I'm going through challenges with my son, when I moved to Charlotte 5 years ago, me and him lived in a additional bedroom of my friend's house on an air mattress for 6 months before I had the money and the job to be able to provide the things that I wanted. But I told him, and he was young at that time, that I would never let him struggle. So through trial and tribulation and work and all of these different things, years later, when we were custom building this house that we live in now, he walked through that process, and acquiring land. And when I launched my first book and all of these different things, he's seen the process, but he's also seen the struggles.
Yeah.
And I think parents, we always want the promise without the process.
Yeah.
And we have to be willing to go through the process of maybe going off on your child and then humbling yourself to apologize, because that wasn't directed at them. It was really, you were stressed at something else. So for me, being willing to share your deepest vulnerabilities with your child in the process, so they can respect it, understand it, and empathize with it.
Yeah.
So that then they can see you grow through it.
Yeah, I heard you say apologize to your child. You are big on apologizing to kids. You think there's a benefit for that. Can you talk more about that? I saw you mention that on one of your reels on your page.
So I think a lot of parents, and just in general, believe that it's this hierarchy of where I'm the parent and you're the child. So it's everything comes down.
Yeah.
Where I believe we could shift that perspective is that if we were able to still be here on the same playing field. Now, at the end of the day, there are certain things as a parent you're going to have to do and say, and your child is going to have to listen. But how we communicate that and how we explain that is very important. So I believe if your child drops their milk and you go off on them because you recognize that emotion or that rage is fueled through something else, I think it's your responsibility to maybe communicate, like, look, I didn't communicate that in the best way. I do apologize, but this expectation, or this is where that came from. And you don't break them down. I measure people on how they build them up. Because I think over time, if you just continue to beat your kid down without any redirection, empathy, without any self-regulation or regulating your emotions in these times, and maybe humbling yourself or taking accountability, how do we expect our children to learn how to take accountability? How do we teach our children to regulate their emotions when they're upset? Like yesterday, Carter got really upset because I said no to something. And I said, I understand that you're upset, but that doesn't mean, I said that I judge you based upon how you act when you don't get something. That's what character is, not based on when you are getting something. Carter, you get everything. And this is why we're not doing this right now, because we're on a tight time crunch. And he said, I apologize, Dad, but I'm just upset because I wanted to go to his cousin's house. I said, I understand that. But I said, how you act moving forward and your attitude moving forward will determine if I change my mind and what we're doing moving forward. He shifted his attitude. So you teach the standard, you model the standard. It's not about me going off and telling them to stop crying and stop being a sissy and all these different things like we were taught as children. Yeah. It's about modeling the behavior that you want. And even if you fall short, trying it again. Again, it's about the process so that you can get to the promise.
Yeah, and I think having that type of communication and that vulnerability allows kids to see that my parent is human, and I don't have to put up in front that I'm perfect and not tell my parent when I have messed up and try to hide it. Like, I know my mom and dad have made mistakes, so we can have these conversations in house and not have to, hide it or, post it on social media. So I kind of like that. Sounds like a lot of emotional intelligence as well.
Yes, it took work for me. It took a lot of work. 100%. I read a book called The Four Agreements, and in one of the chapters it talked about how it was a story of this young daughter. She was playing her flute and her mom was aggravated at the time, and her mom yelled at the daughter and said, like, stop playing your music, like, you don't sound good, stop, I don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
It said in the book that was the agreement that was made, that I'm not good enough. And for her, she stopped playing her flute. Yeah. That lady could have grown up to be the next composer or something, musical composer, musical genius or masterpiece. So I think of that in every situation. Like, I don't want to say something in the moment, and even if I do go fly off the handles, and it happens. So anybody listening right now, I am not perfect at all. It happens. Even if I say it, I don't want that to be an agreement that he takes with him and he thinks that I'm not good enough or I'm not worthy or my voice doesn't matter or my wants and needs don't matter. No. So if I understand and regulate and reflect on, hey, I could have said that a little differently. If that was an adult, I would have probably said that differently. If that was my parent, I wouldn't have communicated in that way. If that was a loved one, I wouldn't communicate in that way. Then we have to be willing to relinquish that same control in regards to our kids, so that we can be able to have a relationship as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, this was not one of my questions, but every time you bring up a book, I'm like, yes, I read that one. So I'm going to ask you to, after this, like, send us some books that parents that are, or even future parents, you're not a parent now, but you want to be. There's a list of books. Of course, we're going to put your book on there that's coming out, and we'll talk about when that's coming out. But if there's some books that parents that want to learn more that you would suggest that they read, maybe top 3, maybe 5, maybe 10. Now, all these books that he's going to suggest, you can get them on audio, because I know everyone's booked and busy. So there's always a way to get information in, and there's also Blinkist as well. So, but like, we don't come, like, you have to invest in your learning, and sometimes that means reading.
Of course, hands down. Yeah, I'll definitely share the list for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Now, how would parenting look for you if you had a daughter? If everything stayed the same, what would be different?
I think everything would change.
Really?
Oh my God. So in this, when this is being filmed, I'm currently expecting another child. No, we're not.
Congratulations. That's why you started smiling.
Yeah. So I really feel in my spirit that it is a daughter.
Okay.
But I'm not sure.
Okay.
But I do believe that everything would change. I've always wanted to be a girl dad.
Okay.
I believe that it would change who I am emotionally, and I think it was necessary to have Carter first. And I've learned the emotional intelligence. I've kind of started to practice it with him.
Yes.
Because it will be necessary with the young lady. Yes. I think with me in this transition that I'm going through from who I was to now, getting ready to be a married husband, a married man, and the things that I want to do and how I've grown and how I've evolved. This is the man that I would want to be raising a daughter.
Yeah.
So, I wanted to be that model man so that I could be able to set a high standard, because I still do everything around the house. Yes, we have people that clean and come cook sometimes.
Yeah.
But I still cook, I still work on the car. I still like to paint in the house. Mm-hmm. So there's a standard in which that I would have for a young man if I was to have a daughter that I have to embody.
Yeah.
And, with being a married man as well, and how I'm communicating with her mother, with how I'm loving her mother, with how, we're navigating conflict, with, how we showcase love. I remember asking a group of students years ago, how would you define what love looked like in your household? And the answers truly broke my heart.
Yeah.
Either they didn't have them, or it was absent, or fighting, or disrespect, or all of these different things. And we've normalized chaos. So I think in her life, if I was to have a daughter, and I get really excited even thinking about it, I would normalize what love looks like, what peace, what happiness looks like, so that she wouldn't be able to have anything else in her life.
Yeah. And you know, I think you're absolutely right. Having Carter has prepared you for the vulnerability and the emotional intelligence that's going to be needed for a girl, because girls force you to see them.
Oh, of course.
We're gonna talk about emotions. We're gonna talk about our feelings. And if you're not prepared to lean into that and hear it and help us process that, then they're gonna go outside that house and look for affirmation, and that should come from the home. And so you're going to be ready. You're going to be ready. So I definitely would. Well, I know you're going to, when you do have your soon to be daughter, I'm going to look for the book that's going to come after 8th one, because I think that some of the verbiage will probably change.
100%.
Yeah, that's exciting. You also believe in giving kids choice and decision making. Why is that so important, and why do you encourage parents to give their kids choice? Because growing up old school, you know, a lot of old school parents aren't really big fans of intentional parenting, positive parenting.
Yes.
You know, you do what I say, you know, all that stuff. But why in this day and age is having choice and making decisions so needed for our kids?
Because I believe when you give a child choice, you teach them how to listen to what their heart desires, and communicate those things. And what I mean by that is, if you continue to say, like, I no to this because I'm the parent, no, what you're really saying is that your wants, your desires don't matter, and they're not good enough. And they're going to believe that, and that's an agreement that they're going to keep the rest of their life. So when in a relationship, they're not going to be able to communicate like, hey, I want to be loved in this way. Yeah. When they're in business, they don't know how to negotiate for a higher salary. When they're in any area in their life, in my opinion, again, I don't believe it teaches children how to truly decipher, measure risk, and make decisions within their own minds and free thought. I think it also teaches them the importance of critical thinking and problem solving. Yeah. It teaches them consequence from their choices as well. So Carter, nowadays, I don't even teach him, you know, I don't fight him on what you want to wear. I'll throw out 3 different outfits for him. You choose. And then I give him the weather. And either we're going to be cold and we're going to have to go back home and get a jacket, or we're not going to be able to do those different things. Or you're going to be uncomfortable, or all these things. And it also teaches them how to ask questions. Yeah. Because if you don't know in the moment, it's important to ask your dad or ask your teacher or ask somebody questions, so that you could be able to navigate through these decision-making processes, and not being able to just make commitments without understanding the risk that is attached to those commitments. So I think that's what it's done in my household. Again, I have a 7-year-old, so anybody that has like 10-year-olds, 14-year-olds, I get DMs all the time like, oh, just wait until you have a teenager. I haven't gotten there yet, but it's worked for me thus far. It teaches them how to communicate, and how to decipher through the things that he wants to do. And I think it's important. I'm really interested. I'm excited about audience hearing the answer to this question, because I thought when I heard someone ask you this question, before you answered it, I thought I knew what you're going to say, and you went totally left. So the most powerful or meaningful activity you currently do with your son? You will have to circle back to hear the last part of my conversation with Kyle King, part 3. This is Health and Wellness with Coach A.T. Moore. Thanks for watching.